Hola, buenos días, soy Nico.
Daddy.
And today we're here to close out another wonderful week's worth of content. Today we're going to be talking about a fan favorite and a legend in and of himself, Phat Daddy announcing his official retirement once again. Nico, I say once again because if you did not know, Phat Daddy is a gay for pay studio performer from the early 2000s who was in a lot of the quote unquote thug era productions, such as Papi Thugs. He was also in By Latin Men. He also had a short stint with Lucas Entertainment where he rebranded with the name Cesar Dior. But overall, that's where his timeline in adult cinematography ended around the 2010s, where I found an interview where he did like a 2 hour sit down and just discussed life for a bit. So I'll tie in some of that information into this conversation, and I'll also add the link to it in the description box down below if you're interested in finding more about Phat Daddy. But essentially, he is here to announce that he is retiring once again, basically saying that at this moment in his life, he no longer has the energy nor the patience to continue to post and produce adult cinematography. A lot of people may not have known that he came back because it was only recently, I'd say within the last 2 years, where he made that statement. And I was actually one of the first people to comment on it, and it got like 7,000 likes on Twitter. And people call me a hypocrite because earlier I said I wasn't necessarily that big of a fan of Phat Daddy. His videos didn't do much for me, but I can still be excited that a veteran is popping back up into the field. But what I didn't know was that he wasn't the only one to try to come back. Nico, who are you talking about? King Dingo, his brother. No, like his actual brother in real life. So basically, I was looking for information for this video, and I saw that King Dingo had made an appearance in 2019. He made a Twitter, he was producing content, but it was all straight. But even in that content, you could see that Phat Daddy was the one recording his videos for him. The video production, not necessarily the best, and I feel like that's what Phat Daddy dealt with when he came back as well, because it was no longer a studio age. The studio was no longer handling his recordings, so all of his content was coming out a little grainy, a little low budget. But I expect that from somebody who went from just the star to now a star/producer. But in this context, before we get too deep into the conversation, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive lives, weekly videos, and be a part of the live streams, which happen twice a week, where we build community and have deep intellectual dialogue. Last week, we talked about the banning of adult cinematography. We have a good multifaceted conversation every week with a varied panel, so if that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in, but let's get back to the tea. So how did he get into gay for pay adult cinematography if he is straight along with his brother? Essentially, he said in the interview that he was 18 with a child on the way and married with no job, in and out of legal trouble. So his aunt actually reached out to him and asked if he ever considered adult entertainment, because at that point he was in and out of jail, and he said that he actively wanted to change his life for the better of his children rather than just repeating the old family curses, because his father was in and out of jail and not active in his life, and he ended up being raised by a single mother. So from there, he actually reached out to an agent who sent his pictures to two different companies. One of the companies was called Bang Bus, which was offering him $200 per scene, while the other one was called Miami Boys, which was offering him $600 per scene. So you could see that there was a clear price difference on how the industry viewed gay and straight performers. And from there, he said that it was an easy decision because he weighed his options, but even before entering filming, he was doing escorting with men because it was a lot easier to break into that field than to do it with women. I guess it would be the same as like sugar daddies. It's a lot easier to find a sugar daddy than it is to find a sugar mama because there's usually more requirements other than just your base appearance. But let's move forward into the conversation. So from there, he did his performing and he ended up retiring around 2013. I think that's the last timestamp I saw him. And he ended up going into trucking, if I'm not mistaken, because him and his brother also did interviews prior where they stated that it was actually weighing down on them being in the adult cinematography industry. So they took a step back and actively went into normal life, but then came back recently because the money was needed. So I actually respect him for not only sitting down and being like, hey, this is the situation. I'm no longer going to be making content. I actually want you to unsubscribe to the OnlyFans because it wouldn't feel right just taking your money because I'm no longer putting into that platform. Also, making a mature statement to his fans while not coming off as like homophobic or offensive, basically saying I'm just no longer in the point of my life where I'm comfortable doing this. Honestly, I'm surprised that he came back at all since he took a good 8, maybe 11-year break. So to see him come back in 2023, it didn't make that big of a splash, which I wasn't necessarily surprised about because, like I said, it had been a long time since he retired, but he also came back as strictly a performer, meaning the production wasn't there, the audio wasn't there, the quality of the videos just wasn't there because that's not the end of the camera he's used to being on. So I genuinely wish him peace and success in the future and that he's able to reintegrate back into normal society and that he got all he needed to from coming back around the second time, because if someone can take a good 10 years out of the camera and then come back for like 1 year and be like, all right, I got all the situations I need to handle and I'm going to dip again, I'm going to respect it. Because the same situation I gave Grandy Glaze grace when he said that he was going to retire, I gave Mike Mann the same grace the first 2 times he said he was going to retire. After that, I was just kind of over it. But but I do support this and I hope he has a good future going forward and that everything gets taken care of and that he doesn't have to revisit adult cinematography again if it's continuing to weigh on him to the point that is making it impossible and uncomfortable to even produce content. But yes, that's the conversation and that's the tea. Did you know that Phat Daddy came back in front of the camera? Did you know that King Dingo, for a brief stint, also came back and tried to revamp his career? Did you know that Phat Daddy was gay for pay? Because honestly, I think I heard that growing up. I think I heard that because I know for a lot of the performers back in the quote unquote thug performer days, that a lot of them were actually straight and that they were just making money. So to not only find out that that was Phat Daddy and his brother King Dingo's situation, but also that he got incorporated into the adult industry because of a family member. He was recruited by an aunt. And then to find out that he was actually straight with 2 kids at like 18 to 20, trying to figure it all out and just threw himself into adult entertainment. It was a very enlightening experience. But yes, that is all I have to say, and I will see you guys next time, and definitely drop your opinions down below. Boop. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers, some of my day 1 subscribers, Michael F. and Darkboo007. Your support is greatly appreciated, and thank you once again to everyone who supports the channel. And to stay on brand with this week's closing video, this week's live stream discussion will be over who would you bring out of retirement in 2024. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in.